The cargo hold was silent except for the deep, tired hum of a damaged engine somewhere inside the pirate ship. Cold metal pressed against Lyrian's knees as she knelt on the hard floor between rows of empty cages. Dim orange lights flickered above her, casting long shadows across the rusted walls. Her hands rested calmly in her lap. Her eyes were closed. She had already decided how she would face the end. She would not scream. She would not beg. Her people believed that the final moments of life should be peaceful. Lyrian belonged to a species known as the Elari. For thousands of years, the Elari had traveled through the stars as explorers and teachers. They built great libraries on distant planets and shared knowledge with any civilization willing to learn. War had never been their focus. They believed wisdom could solve every conflict. For a long time, the galaxy allowed them to believe that. Then the raiders came. Black warships appeared above Elari cities without warning. They fell from orbit like dark storms, and their weapons rained fire across peaceful worlds. The Elari had ships, but they were not warships. Their defenses collapsed quickly. Cities burned. Libraries that held centuries of knowledge were destroyed in hours. Families were torn apart. Survivors were taken as prisoners. Lyrian remembered the night her world fell. She remembered the sky glowing red as buildings collapsed and terrified voices echoed through the darkness. She remembered the moment armored raiders forced her onto a transport ship. Now she was far from home, trapped inside a pirate vessel traveling through deep space. The cargo hold smelled of oil and rust. Most of the cages were empty now. One by one, prisoners had been taken away whenever the ship stopped at hidden stations across the frontier. Lyrian had watched them leave. Some begged the pirates for mercy. Some tried to fight. None ever returned. She understood what waited for her. The pirates planned to sell her in a slave market far beyond the borders of civilized space. Lyrian slowly breathed in and out, calming her thoughts. Her people believed fear should never control the mind. So she closed her eyes and prepared herself. Footsteps echoed faintly in the corridor outside the cargo hold. Rough pirate voices laughed. Then silence returned. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Time felt strange in the darkness. Then a quiet whisper broke the silence. "Come with me." Lyrian's eyes opened instantly. A tall figure stood in the shadows near the cargo door. Broad shoulders, dark clothing, calm, steady eyes. A human. Lyrian had heard stories about humans long ago from traveling traders. Humans were newcomers to the galaxy compared to ancient races like the Elari. Some species described them as reckless explorers. Others said humans possessed an unusual loyalty and courage. The human raised a finger to his lips. Quiet. His voice was calm and controlled. He stepped forward and held up a small device glowing faint blue. In seconds, the restraints around Lyrian's wrists clicked open and fell to the floor. "You need to move now," he said softly. "Patrol returns soon." Lyrian stared at him, confused. "Why help me?" The human glanced toward the corridor before answering. "Because no one deserves to end their life in chains." He extended his hand. "Come." For a moment, Lyrian hesitated. Hope was dangerous. Hope could hurt more than despair if it vanished. But something in the human's expression felt honest. She took his hand. They slipped quietly through the cargo door into a narrow service corridor. Lights flickered above them while distant machinery vibrated through the walls. "Where are we going?" she whispered. "Escape pod bay," the human replied. "You have a safe destination waiting." "You came here alone?" she asked in surprise. He smiled slightly. "Not exactly." They turned a corner. Two pirate guards suddenly stepped into view. The raiders froze when they saw the escaped prisoner beside the stranger. One of them shouted an alarm. The human moved instantly. A small pulse weapon flashed in his hand. Two bright bursts struck the weak points in the pirate's armor. Both guards collapsed. Lyrian blinked in shock. "You didn't kill them." "No need," he replied calmly while scanning the corridor. Suddenly alarms screamed across the ship. Red emergency lights flooded the hallway. "Guess someone noticed," he said. They ran. Boots thundered behind them as pirates rushed through the corridors. Blaster fire struck the walls, sending sparks across the metal. Lyrian's heart pounded, but the human never slowed. "Almost there," he said. They burst into a wide circular chamber filled with escape pods. Small silver capsules lined the walls like silent lifeboats waiting for disaster. The human rushed to one pod and opened the hatch. "Get inside." Lyrian hesitated. "Why risk your life for someone you don't even know?" The human paused. Years ago, my people weren't strong either, he said quietly. Sometimes the galaxy forgets what compassion means. Someone has to remind it. Heavy footsteps rushed toward the chamber entrance. The pirates were close. The human gently guided her inside the pod. Navigation is set for a human colony called Haven, he said. They'll help you. Come with me, she said urgently. He shook his head. Someone needs to slow the pirates down. Before she could argue, the hatch sealed. Seconds later, the pod launched into space. Through the small window, Lyrian saw chaos inside the bay. Pirates fired wildly, while the human moved through the smoke with calm precision, disarming enemies and dodging attacks. Then the pirate ship slowly disappeared behind her as the escape pod accelerated toward the stars. Hours passed. Lyrian sat quietly as endless darkness stretched beyond the glass. One stranger had changed her fate with a single whisper. Come with me. Days later, the pod reached a bright blue planet surrounded by human defense stations. Human ships guided the small craft safely toward the surface. When the hatch opened, warm sunlight touched Lyrian's face. Humans stood waiting, doctors, soldiers, scientists. Their expressions were calm and welcoming. You are safe here, one woman said gently. Safe. The word felt strange. Months passed on the colony world Haven. Humans cared for the Elari survivors and began searching nearby systems for others taken by the raiders. Slowly, rescue ships returned with refugees from distant stations and hidden slave markets. Communities formed again. Children laughed again. Music returned. One evening, Lyrian stood on a balcony overlooking a peaceful ocean beneath twin moons. A familiar voice spoke behind her. Beautiful view. She turned quickly. The human stood there, alive and smiling. You survived, she said. Barely, he replied with a small laugh. But those pirates won't capture anyone again. She studied him with curiosity. Why do humans help strangers? Why fight battles that aren't yours? The human looked up at the stars. Because the universe can be cruel, he said quietly. Someone has to stand against that cruelty. Then he looked back at her. And sometimes saving one life changes everything. Lyrian remembered the cargo hold where she had knelt with her eyes closed, ready to die. Then she remembered the whisper that broke the darkness. Come with me. Now, beneath the peaceful sky of Haven, she finally understood something powerful. In a galaxy filled with fear and darkness, humanity was the light that refused to disappear. Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.